Just when you thought, who needs more than 69,000 candela in a weapon-mounted light, HRT Tactical said, here, hold my beer, and came out with the AWLS, the Advanced Weapon Light System, giving you a punishing 90,000 candela capable light that will fulfill all of your punishing sunlight bright needs. There is a lot to go over in the AWLS light system here from HRT and its little knobby activation button back here. And it comes in two sizes, the smaller version here and the larger version that you probably saw but didn't know you saw in some previous videos. So make sure you stick around for the whole video so you can get all the information, because these lights just dropped today. But I've been testing one for quite some time in a prototype, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Before we get into the light though, on a serious note, please hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, leave a comment down below, because I was recently demonetized and I'm kind of somewhat being restricted now. So all that stuff is a huge help, and it'll also signal to YouTube that you like the content and what we have built here on the channel. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the testing I did on this light. So since this AWLS from HRT is a brand new lighting system, but dead sexy looking on there, I wanted to give it some extra love with a really angry break out on the range to accelerate the life cycle. Some of you may be asking why I positioned the light where I did so close to that break. And that was because all this light is new. The electronics in there, the head, the tail cap, the body, everything is a fresh design. So I really wanted to see if I was going to be able to, through the concussion of that break, which is really kind of mimicking not only the concussion, but maybe some falls, some bumps, and some bruises here that you get using this in a real life scenario, maybe throwing it on the tailgate, dropping it once or twice, something like that, to see if anything was going to happen in there. And if you've never been on the range next to somebody that's running a big angry break like these ones right here from Dead Air, you do not want to spend a lot of time to the side of those, because the concussive blast is immense and it gets annoying real quick. I also did a bunch of static drain tests where you just turn the light on and put it on the clock and see if the runtime is what they say it is. And we'll get into the runtime and the difference between the larger and the smaller one, because there is a big difference between the two based on the batteries. I also did phantom drain tests where I literally left the light there for like 90 days, didn't mess with it, and then did a drain test to see was there any phantom drain in the battery. And I'm happy to report the battery performed and the light performed exactly as I expected and exactly as HRT said. And of course I did the low light, no light test. So you could actually see what this thing is going to throw and spill like, which is the whole point of the light. But HRT on their website claims that you're going to be able to see out to 600 meters with this thing. That's pretty crazy. Even half that is like super insane. But I'm sure that is in ideal conditions. But what I will say is, this thing is an absolute flamethrower. It's got like the power of the sun when you flip that button on. I tested this at night on my property, and where I live, there are no street lights. So there's some ambient lighting from people's houses, but it's extremely minimal. You're gonna get a really good idea here on the throw. To give you an idea, that back wall that's in the video right there, my property from where I'm at is about 300 feet deep right there. So you can see it's very nice, and the camera might not be doing it justice, but I can tell you right now, I can see my neighbor's house, I can see the trees, I can see the mesquite, I can see that wall, and it's also got a very good spill area. So if you weren't directly on what you were looking at, the spill to the left and right is going to help you pick up whatever you're trying to ID at a very good distance. And to give you an idea, that garage is about 50 feet away from my house. You're going to have a really good idea of how it's going to look in that kind of a distance as well, with that throw and that spill. We'll go ahead and go into my garage now. This is a 2,000 square foot garage. It's got a 16-foot sidewall, and if I'm not mistaken, a 24-inch height in the pitch at the highest point. And you can see this light is just punishing. Now the walls in here are lined with that very, very reflective white insulation material. So even in here, I'm not getting any bounce back that's gonna cause any issues with me. Some people complain that it's like, oh, a light that bright, you're not gonna be able to see when you turn it on in a house. I've been in plenty of houses searching and doing, a lot of things with lights. That's never been a problem for me. So again, good spill, very bright hot spot here, and it is going to illuminate this almost entire garage for you and really punish anything that you point it directly at. I am telling you, that light is angry with that candela and that lumen rating. Let's get a good up close look at this, talk about some of the specs on here, because you need to understand how this thing works as compared to other lights and the level of adjustability that you're going to have within this. And then what is it going to work with out there that's already in the market from other manufacturers? Up close love going with our new AWLS light systems from HRT Tactical. I've got the small version and the original large version that I've been testing for quite some time now. So just using this for reference for size and everything, because the actual offering that went live today is slightly different than that one. On both of these, the entire body design is going to be one solid piece of machined aluminum. So no like screwing apart to another part to another part. It's body, headlamp, and tail cap, or head and tail cap. So definitely good there. It's not a multiple piece situation. It's also fully reversible. So if you want this on the other side, you just take the tail cap and the head off, you swap everything around, and you are good to go. It's also tension adjustable here on the switch. So the switch is very positive, okay? I don't know exactly the material. It is some form of polymer, so you're not gonna beat that thing up too bad, but when you activate it, it's very positive to turn it on. So if you're bumping it like this, or you're in a SWAT vehicle or in a car or something, you can see me bumping into things, it's not gonna accidentally set your light off. You have to have a positive engagement or use the clicky tail cap. Now we'll talk about some other options here in a second, but just so you understand, and that is one of the changes you can see on this version. It was like a kind of almost like a rubberized clear polymer style material on the OG version, but the new one has nicer design in my opinion. All of the internals on these are automatic, thermal protected. It's going to come with the battery, the charger, and these lights are going to be capable of 90,000 candela because of the head that's on here, which is insane, and 1700 lumens. Now both of those are raw, and what that means is that's the maximum capability at the body, so has to be optimal positioning. Runtime on the smaller one, 32 minutes. Runtime on the big one is like 103, I think they said. And that's just due to the size of the batteries in there. Both will be 5,500 Kelvin on the light temperature. And there's going to be a weight and a length and size difference, obviously, between the two. Just looking at those, give you guys a good idea here of the size, length difference. The mounting is going to be the same, whether you want the M-LOK or the QD version of them, because both will be available. But I will list the full specs for both of them with that elevator music that you've all come to love, rather than droning on spec by spec for those of you that do not want to hear that. The thing I will say about the mounting here is just look how tight it is, okay, to that rail. So they really knocked it out of the park, giving you a mount that goes right onto that M-LOK or QD because it's tight, gets up in the area that you want it in, and just maximizes space for everything else you might have going on with your rifle. Now, talking about what this will work with that's currently out in the market. The head will work with current Surefire dual fuel bodies and mod lights and Surefire tail caps and all that stuff. This body will not currently work with Surefire or mod light buttons and adapters, but they will be coming out with an adapter that you can get on these that will open up all of those aftermarket tail caps and switches. Whether you want one that's dedicated light IR, whatever you got going on, that will be coming. So that'll be near future. I don't know how long. I don't have a time frame on that. I apologize, but when it drops, I will let you guys know. And if you want to deactivate the light for long-term storage or in a vehicle or something like that, you just do like a quarter turn, half a turn, and that will shut the tail cap down. So you don't have to worry about it draining your batteries or getting super hot in a bag or anything like that. So definitely some thought went into the design and development of these. Now, for those of you that need it, here's those full specs. So you guys remember when I said I've had a prototype for about a year, since January at SHOT Show? You probably didn't know it, but you've seen it on this rifle, which is my Cox Arms rifle right here, which is an awesome company right down the road from me. And they did make several different design changes from this original prototype version. And then you also saw it on this SLR build right here, which is legit probably the smoothest operating rifle I have ever felt in my life. And then you also saw it on a couple of other rifles as well, just when I was getting that testing done out there. But for the most part, every single rifle it was on had one of those angry brakes to really give those electronics, the LED in there and that tail cap, a run for its money. And in that time, with all the testing I did, the battery drains, the low light footage, and thousands of rounds through big angry brakes like this, the light didn't flicker. It didn't have a problem at all with activations, the buttons, the electronics. Everything functioned exactly as I'd hoped and exactly as they say. When it comes to the changes, I will say I do really like the fact that they went to a more solid back cap. They gave you a level of adjustability in there, so even when you're hitting it like this, there's no activation issues until you want that light to go off, and you still maintain the clicky tail cap action. So overall, they did a really good job with the minimal changes, but ensuring the electronics inside were solid as steel. And I don't know about you, but for me, hearing that 90,000 candela and that 1700 lumen rating, when I heard that out of this head, I was kind of thinking, okay, this ought to be very interesting, because you'd think that it would just be hotspot. So the fact they were able to get that LED and that emitter in there, the reflector, to act as spill the way that it does while still maintaining that insane hotspot is actually pretty remarkable, because a lot of companies give you a massive lumen rating or a monster candela rating, but they just don't have a good defined hotspot or a really well defined spill. It's just kind of fuzz everywhere around. And because some of you are probably going to ask, and I would too, yes, I have a dedicated video on this sweet, sexy SLR right here and this Cox Defense rifle right here, which is local to me out in Santan Valley, Arizona. Good people. So if you're interested in seeing those, check those out. I will link them down below. Well, now that you know all that about these two lights, what is our price going to be between the big monster stick and the happy little fella on the SLR build right here? So they're only about 10 bucks different. $285 for the small guy and $295 for the big one. The massive difference though is going to be runtime, and that has to do with the size of the battery and the milliamp rating of the battery. Big fella here, about 103 minutes. Little guy here, about 33 minutes. You're getting literally 3 times the runtime on the big one. But it really depends on what you're using this for, what environment, and how long you think you're gonna run it, because having something that small, slick, and smooth on your rifle and just being able to activate it very quickly is definitely very nice, because once you start putting everything on here, from optics to barricade stop to light to maybe laser, whatever else you got to put on your rifle for fun or for training or for work, things get heavy and space becomes at a premium. It really does. Every inch will start to matter depending on the barrel length. So you've got to figure that out for yourself. But for the $10 difference, you can't go wrong either way. Some of you may be ultimate battery life, and some of you may be ultimate, I need the smallest light possible to maximize rail availability, weight savings, whatever it is. But $285, $295, the way they work out the activation, that's pretty solid. Now for me personally, I dig the little fella right here, because it saves weight, it saves space, and all the stuff I've done in my life, from military, law enforcement, to training, having fun. 33 minutes is not the longest time, it's not the best time, but you're really never constantly running lights. Every time you're clearing a room or a building, it's quick blurbs of the light, quick on, quick off. So as long as your batteries are charged, or maybe you have a spare on you, I've never really run a whole ton of lights out unless I was doing really long, in-depth, large building searches, in which case you're going to go into that building and probably burn through pretty much any light, because sometimes operations go a lot longer than you would expect, and white light then becomes a premium. Some people have to go to handheld, some people are swapping batteries. Always something to keep in mind. But I like the little fella because it fulfills the need for the amount of light I need, gives me a good amount of time, lots of extra space, and it doesn't add a ton of weight to the muzzle, especially since I'm running a can on this thing a lot. So the more weight in the front, the heavier it gets, and I just don't want to hold all that weight up anymore. I'm tired. And I do have plans for the little fella here. It is going to go on my new Type A rifle from BG Defense, so keep an eye out for that video, because that thing is sick. That is what I've got for you all today on the HRT Tactical AWLS light system. It's pretty cool. Give them a look. Like I said, just dropped today. Make sure you get subbed up, leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up. Remember, kind of help out with that demonetization and that restriction that's going on with me right now. But always, get out there on the range, have some fun. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I will see you all on the next one.